Hi everyone, welcome to the Sunday Night Indigenous Sex and Love Show. My name is Lavallee and I'm sitting here with my co-host,
Edward Sear. And so we're really excited today to bring you an amazing episode on STDs and STIs. Now it's really important that the viewers know that Lauren and myself are not sexual health experts, nor do we work for any sort of organization that does sexual health stuff. All the information that we found in this video came from Let's Get Checked YouTube page by Dr. Lavallee, who works for the Center of Disease Control. And so what me and Lauren do,
our goal is to reduce, the shame and stigma and support our community. So make sure you don't leave any disrespectful comments below.
Absolutely, and we're talking about such a sensitive issue, and so we want people to just be mindful, making things like, ew, that's gross, that's awful, because there might be someone in our community that recently was diagnosed with one of these, and so we want to make sure that we're empowering and promoting our people and not putting them down. And once again, all the content that we find, we do a lot of research on the internet, and that's how we attain our stuff. So let's get right into it. Let's jump right into it.
Hi everyone, so the first STI I'm going to be talking about is chlamydia. Now chlamydia is the most common STI in the whole world, and it's caused by a bacteria called Chlamydia trachomatis. And how chlamydia is transmitted is through vaginal sex, oral sex, anal sex, and skin-to-skin contact. So I'm going to be talking about the symptoms of chlamydia, and the symptoms for chlamydia differ for people with penises and people with vaginas. So I'm going to be talking about the symptoms in people with penises first. So for people with penises, the symptoms that you will experience is pain when you pee, as well as unusual discharge. So the discharge might be white, cloudy, or yellow. You might experience sore testicles. You'll also feel feverish or sick. And if you have engaged in anal sex, then some of the symptoms that might show is discharge from your bum and bleeding from your bum. If you have chlamydia in your throat, then most of the time symptoms don't show, but if it does show, your throat might be sore. So I'm going to be talking about symptoms for people with vaginas. So for people with vaginas, they'll experience an unusual discharge. So it might be yellow or it might be white, whatever is abnormal to your regular discharge, because people with vaginas have a discharge already. So whatever is not normal to you, there's a chance that that's a symptom of chlamydia. Abnormal bleeding, so between your period cycles, if you bleed in between then, that's an indication of a symptom, as well as bleeding after sex. Pain in your pelvic area is another symptom. So the area right below your belly button, you might experience a cramping sensation. And another symptom you might experience is pain during or after sex. So I'm also going to talk about treatment. Treatment is super simple and easy for chlamydia. Most of the times it's a one-time dose of some tablets you have to take. But for more complicated situations, if you have it in your throat or in your bum, it might be a week-long process, and you'll likely have to get retested 2 to 3 weeks. But chlamydia it's super common, but it's also super treatable, and the only way to find out is if you go get yourself checked out, so make sure to do that.
Okay. Hi everybody. Now we're going to be talking about HPV, also known as the human papillomavirus, which is one of the most common STDs and STIs out right now. So the thing about HPV that's really fascinating is that it actually has 150 related viruses and strains associated with it. Now most of these strains usually aren't a big deal. You show no symptoms and your body can clear it up on its own. However, there is some strains that are more dangerous and can also be associated with genital warts and cervix cancer. So for females, it's important to get a pap test to see if you have anything abnormal with your cervical cells. And this can be done at any one of your doctors. You can also do this at the Hassle-Free Clinic and various other Aboriginal organizations in the area, or medical organizations. Males can carry HPV, but there is no test to see if they do. So this is why HPV is probably so commonly spread as well, because men oftentimes don't even know that they're carrying the virus. You must see symptoms of HPV to know that you have it. So things like genital warts, multiple growths around your penis, testicles, groins, thighs, and around your bum could be a sign or symptom of HPV. HPV can be transmitted orally, anally, or vaginally, much like the other STIs that we talked about. What can you do to prevent yourself from catching HPV? So first and foremost, as we say a lot in our previous episodes, is wearing condoms or insertive condoms or flavored condoms for oral sex is a great start. Also, visiting your doctor regularly for regular pap smears and testing is also a really great way to reduce the spread of HPV. So there are some treatments available for HPV which are orally taken. If you do have HPV, there is various treatments, but this does not prevent the growth of genital warts. There's also options to do what's called chirotherapy or freezing abnormal cells, laser therapy, and uses of lasers to burn abnormal cells in the cervix. You can also access information at, once again, the hassle-free clinic. It's also really important to note that HPV is one of the leading causes of cervical cancer. However, if you have genital HPV, this cannot cause you oral cancer. So where the HPV lies, that's where abnormal cells could develop and grow into cancerous cells, which could eventually cause cancer. So we want to really amplify how important this information is to our community members. In addition, it is said that almost 70% of people out there have HPV and don't even know. So that's why we want to encourage people, once again, over and over, to continue to get tested.
Hi everyone, so I'm going to be talking about gonorrhea today. Gonorrhea is a sexual infection and it can spread through any form of sexual contact, so oral sex, vaginal sex, or anal sex. So I'll be talking about the different symptoms in people with penises and vaginas. So people with penises will experience unusual discharge coming from their penis, a painful sensation when you pee, an inflamed penis or sore testicles, and you'll notice your private area is hot to the touch if you have gonorrhea. And if you have gonorrhea in your throat, you'll notice you have a sore throat. And if you have gonorrhea in your bum, you'll experience discharge or bleeding from your bum. And so for people with vaginas, you'll also experience an unusual discharge, unusual bleeding during sex or between your period cycles, pain during sex, pelvic pain, anal discharge or bleeding as well, and then you'll also have a sore throat if you have gonorrhea in your throat. So I also want to talk about diagnosis and treatment. So to be diagnosed with gonorrhea, usually doctors will do a swab test or they'll do a pee test. And it is treatable if you address it right away. However, treatment nowadays is very resistant, or gonorrhea is very resistant to treatment nowadays. So the most effective treatment is having an injection to your bum and taking tablets orally. And once you're completed treatment, it's important to get yourself rechecked 2 to 3 weeks after to ensure you're completely cured. Also, to get yourself rechecked, depending on your case, if it's more severe or not, after 7 days of completing your antibiotics, you can get yourself rechecked as well to see if you're cured. It's really important to make sure that you treat gonorrhea, because if it's left untreated, it can cause pelvic inflammatory disease, ectopic pregnancy, infertility, and chronic pelvic pain. So make sure to get yourself treated and to make sure that you're cured, and follow up and just make sure you keep yourself safe and you protect yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm going to talk to you about syphilis. So what you need to know about syphilis. First and foremost, syphilis is caused by a bacteria that could transmit through the blood flow, and syphilis is highly transmittable through oral sex, anal sex, and vaginal sex. Now there's three stages of syphilis that we wanted to talk about. Now, the first early stages of syphilis will come in what's called a canker or a chancre or an ulcer where the infection occurred. So that could be on your penis, in your vagina, sometimes in the wall of your bum, and even these ulcers can occur in your throat or oral area. So, and that's where the infection has gone through. So it's really important that people know that syphilis is also one of the most commonly transmitted infections through oral sex. And once again, we really want to talk about how important it is to wear flavored condoms as well. So the first step is that, like I said, you'll have a painless ulcer, most commonly found as in the previous places that I said, but it usually turns into secondary stages of syphilis, which essentially comes up with a whole bunch of rashes on your hands or on your feet. This can also be on your chest or your torso. And so this rash, if you Google images, they're like can come across as little circles or just discoloration of your hands. And so that could be a sign or symptom that you are entering into the secondary stages of syphilis. You also might experience some headaches, dizziness, hearing problems, and swollen lymph glands. So those are also secondary signs. So if your neck is swollen, if you have swollen under your armpit or swollen in your crotch area where the lymph nodes are, that can also be a sign that you may be positive for syphilis. Now, the third stages of syphilis are the most dangerous stages of syphilis, and why that is because after the secondary stage, syphilis can go what's called dormant or quiet, which means that there's no signs or symptoms for a really long time. However, the bacteria is still in your body and affecting your organs, your brain, and other various things. So that's why it's so important to get tested as well. And so one of the things that syphilis is associated with is also Alzheimer's, dementia, issues with the heart and the organs around the heart, and so that's why we really recommend people getting checked more often. People like Al Capone, actually back in the old days, Al Capone died of syphilis, and many other people because there was no cure for it. So, which leads me right back into how is syphilis treated is through an injection which happens in the buttocks, and that's going to be using penicillin. So, and that will also clear the virus. And once again, this is a disease that once upon a time caused all sorts of health issues, but now we do have a cure for that. So greater than 2 years, if you've had the infection for more than 2 years, it may take 3 weeks of a treatment of injections. And so that's why we want early detection is always best. It is curable, bacterial, but not the virus. So if you test positive for syphilis and you go get tested again for syphilis, there's still a chance that your test might come back up that you still are testing positive for syphilis. And your doctor might ask you, have you ever been treated for syphilis? So what that essentially means is that the bacteria has left your body, but sometimes the syphilis can still be found in the blood even though the bacteria has been cured. And so that's our discussion about syphilis.
Hi everyone, so I'll also be talking about herpes today. So herpes is a viral infection. It appears around the mouth or genital area. And for the mouth area, it's called oral labia. And for the genital area, it's called anal/genital herpes. So there are two different types of herpes. There's herpes type 1 and herpes type 2. So herpes type 1 is an infection of the lips, and herpes type 2 is an infection of the genital areas. And for a long time, people thought you could only get type 1 around your lips and type 2 on your genital areas, but they're actually interchangeable. So you can get herpes type 2 around your mouth, and you can get herpes type 1 on your genital areas. So just be mindful of that. And I'm going to be talking about the symptoms. So the symptoms are mutual for anybody. You'll usually experience pain from the last from 2 to 5 days after you've had sexual exposure. So herpes can be transmitted through oral sex, anal sex, and vaginal sex. And so what will appear are painful fluid-filled blisters, and that could be found around your mouth, the vaginal area, and the anal area. Some other symptoms are cold or flu-like symptoms, muscle aches, pain when you pee, and when you're using the washroom you'll notice an unusual discharge that might be yellow or green coming out from your penis or vagina, and then you'll also experience severe pain during sex. So a lot of people wonder, can herpes be cured? And unfortunately no, it cannot be cured. However, it is super important to see a specialized doctor immediately upon noticing you have symptoms of herpes, because if it is your first time having herpes, you can actually receive treatment or medication to prevent it from ever appearing again. So go get tested, make sure to address that right away, because you can ensure that it doesn't appear again in your lifetime. And I also want to speak about how common herpes is. So herpes type 1, 80 to 90% of our population have herpes type 1. And so, because it's so easy to transmit, you can get it from sharing a drink with somebody, you can get it from kissing your mom or your dad. Like it's very common, so there's no shame in having herpes type 1, and herpes type 2, 60% of the population has it. So once again, like more than half our population has herpes. So there's no shame, and we shouldn't feel embarrassed about it. It's such a common thing, and it's a thing that we can live with. So once again, I just want to remind everyone to be kind to each other and to not shame those who do have it. Hi everyone, so that's a wrap for our STI/STDs video for this week, and I just want to talk about what happens when you do test positive and you are diagnosed with an STI and STD. So it's really important to be kind to yourself, because you could have thoughts about yourself as being dirty, you messed up, you're angry, you're upset. There's a lot of self-hate there, but just be kind to yourself and really focus on moving forward in a good way and in a positive way.
Absolutely, and we really want to talk about the also the shame and stigma a little bit around the STDs and STIs, and so all these different various feelings that we may have about that. So we want to really encourage people to be kind. Now the other thing that was really important, that why we did the specific STIs and STDs that we did, because most, if not all, of the STIs that we talked about today are transmittable through oral sex. And so a lot of people see oral sex as not a risky behavior, and that STDs and STIs aren't really transmitted that way, which is really incorrect. And as some of the previous content would show, that these are. And that's why we really want to encourage people to use flavored condoms for engaging in oral sex. We want to encourage people to also utilize dental dams, are also a great way to reduce these infections as well.
So we also want to speak about being accountable for our diagnosis. So when you find out that you're positive, you could be mad at your partners or whoever you're seeing at that time. You can start pointing your fingers at people, but it's really important as adults who are engaging in sex, or youth who are engaging in sex, that we have to be responsible to our bodies, to protect our bodies.
Absolutely, and I think when because we've done a little bit of research and talking to people, one of the things that's really common is that when somebody tests positive for any STI or STD, is to constantly or to really be aggressively blaming their partner. And that's why we are doing this show, is because we want to teach people to be accountable for their bodies and to really focus our energy on being independent, strong people. And the best way we can protect our partners is by protecting ourselves. So we really wanted to really amplify the importance of using condoms, insertive condoms, and of course flavored condoms for oral sex as well.
So I think that's a wrap for our video for today.
Absolutely.
Thank you for tuning in.
And thank you so much. Let's reduce infections. Let's promote our community, and let's come together in a good way. And we look forward to seeing you for another episode next week.